Today we're doing an analysis, Animorphs analysis thing, and it's going to be on everybody's favourite android dicks, the Chee. Now I know that I put a poll up recently on my channel asking you what you wanted to see in the next analysis, and the dome ships won that one. Now I do intend to do the dome ships video, but while this week I've been preparing for the big Annie theory video on the Cheespiracy, which means I spent a lot of this week going over information about the Chee and figure out what's for or against the argument of the Chee being double-crossing bastards. Okay? And in the midst of all of that, I've gathered all the information I require of the Chee, and it's all in my little brain. So I thought, yeah, I'll do the dome ships one, but while I'm hot on the Chee, let's do the Chee analysis video. So yeah, the dome ship video will be coming, but today we're looking at those, what are they? Double-crossing bastards, the Chee. But we're not going to go too much into that. We're just going to do an overview, because that's what analysis is. It's just doing a big overall view of the Chee, putting it all together and figuring out what the hell they're all about. So the first thing that we need to discuss with the Chee is appearance. When we first come across the Chee, it's Erek, and he's in a hologram. So the Chee are able to emit these holograms, very advanced hologram software, apparently, and they're able to pass as humans throughout human society, and they've been doing it for many, many years. But what does the machine, what does the actual Chee look like? Let's read some descriptions from the books. I saw what looked like interlocking plates of steel and ivory. The foot had no toes. In fact, it wasn't shaped like a human foot, more like a paw. It looks like a machine, almost, like it's made out of metal. It was thousands of interlocked plates, almost like the chainmail armor knights used to wear. Each of the individual links was roughly triangular in shape. The ivory segments were a little larger than the segments that looked like steel. The leg I was looking at was oddly constructed, more like a stretched out dog leg than a human leg. The androids had mouths that were almost like muzzles, clumsy looking legs and stubby fingers. So we get some pretty consistent takes on what the mechanical Chee looks like. A mixture of steel and ivory, and the steel is like these small triangular interlocking plates covering the body, and then on certain parts like say the knees, the big joint parts, it's big blocks of ivory stuff. And they've got muzzles, they've got legs like a dog's leg stretched out, and there's a reason they look like dogs, because they're supposed to sort of resemble their creators, and their creators are supposedly the Pemalites, which were these peaceful, pacifistic aliens from far away, and they wanted to create a toy. Okay, so let's look at some of the descriptions of what the Chee were created for. We were toys originally. They called us the Chee. It's a word that means friend. When our creators made us, they hardwired us for non-violence. We are not capable of hurting another living being. No Chee has ever taken a life. So we have androids that emit holograms, roughly resemble a dog-like creature, and are pacifistic. What other traits do we know about them? We live as humans. We play the role of children and then grow older, and eventually our hologram is allowed to die and we start again as children. The Pemalite homeworld had a gravity 4 times stronger than Earth's. Naturally, we were designed for that gravity, which means we are quite powerful by human standards. It had been only 10 minutes from the time we turned off the interference with the Chee till the point when Erek arrived at the ship to interrupt the battle. 10 minutes to get from land to a spot 5 kilometers underwater. On top of that, we're given a look into how powerful their holograms can be, and this I believe is one of the strongest examples from book 30, The Reunion. Below us, beneath impossibly steep cliff walls, a lush valley teemed with free hawkbajir. That whole illusion, that whole hologram was just Erek, as specified in The Reunion. It was just Erek creating a massive landscape, the entire hawkbajir colony, just from one Chee creating a hologram. And we also got an indication of the strength of these things. They have incredible strength, and the Chee throughout this series are able to do incredible feats of power, show off incredible feats of power, like the one time they got the Pemalite crystal. Speaking of the Pemalite crystal, we meet that particular item in book 10. It's never revisited again, but what that is, it seems to be a small little crystal, not very much, very small, very nondescript. You know, you wouldn't think much of it. But it apparently is able to rewire Chee programming. And not only that, the Yerks are going to use it to take over every computer system on planet Earth. Incredibly powerful little crystal. We don't really have any other details on it. Not really. And in a future AniLysis video, maybe I'll do a cover of the crystal itself and see if I can figure out anything else, maybe put some puzzle pieces together. But for the purpose of this video, the Pemalite crystal probably had something to do with the creation of the Chee in the first place in order for them to be able to change their hardwiring from it. It's like a source thing, like an original source or what have you. It reprograms them, or they can use it to reprogram themselves. We also know that the Chee came to planet Earth many, many years ago, when humans were... Right, the series makes a point of always pointing out that they were around during the time of the ancient Egyptians. So roughly 5,000, 6,000, maybe up to 8,000 years in the past, back when modern humans were in their infancy. Modern as in Homo sapiens. When we're whatever, that's a paleontology, archaeology talk. We're not going to get into that today. But they were around during the times of the Egyptians. And Erek constantly talks about how he helped to build the pyramids and how he was Beethoven's valet or whatever. But they've been throughout human history. And they start off with a child hologram and they grow up, they have an adult hologram and then they die. And that same Chee starts again in a new life and does the whole process again. And they've been going throughout human history doing their thing. They usually say, we don't have big powerful positions, we just sort of lay low and take what information we can, do what we need to do. Why do they do it? Why are they here? The Pemalites, their creators, were wiped out by a race called the Howlers. And the Pemalites came to Earth to escape the Howlers, but the remaining ones were killed by a sickness that the Howlers placed within that population. I think there were about 6 Pemalites that came to Earth. And so the Chee were there, they were immune to this thing. And apparently what they did was they took the essence of the Pemalites, whatever the hell that means. I'm sure the Alarmist has probably got something to say about it. You know, he's had a bit of a fiddle here or there, but apparently they've got like the souls of the Pemalites and they crammed it into wolves. Just shoved it in. And then those wolves suddenly turned into chihuahuas. Not quite sure that's how it went. But that's something like that, yeah? And now the dogs are all playful and happy and the Chee love them. And the Chee want the Yerks to not be around because, well, who doesn't love dogs? Serious question. But what are the Chee doing in modern times? Specifically the late 90s when the Animorphs were doing their thing. We know where the Chee hide out, or at least the Chee that we know of. We know that there's this underground facility where these Chee that we know about are living. We don't know if there are any more. They probably are the only ones, because when we eventually discover the Pemalite ship in book 27 and then later in book 36, it's relatively close. It's just off the coast. It's deep, it's down deep, but it's just off the coast of California. Why they would go there, I've got no bloody idea. It's like voluntarily buying a Honda Jazz. What was beyond the hallway was a vast, vast chamber, lit in glowing gold light, soft and buttery warm. I stepped out of the hallways onto springy grass, and over my head, maybe 30 meters up, there was a glowing orb like a sun. That's where the yellow light came from. Stretched out before us, for more than the length of a football field, was a sort of park. Trees, grass, streams, flowers, butterflies flying around jerkily, bees buzzing from flower to flower, squirrels racing up and down the trees. Walking here or there were androids in their natural form, but it wasn't the presence of a half dozen or so androids that was really shocking. What was really shocking was that there were hundreds, maybe even 1,000 dogs. The Chee love pooches, right? So they filled this massive underground... Remember that the Erek pool is also this massive underground canyon, but just next door to that, just through the wall, you know, you can knock on it and they can hear it. Bit of Morse code going on. Right next door to the Erek pool is this big dog pool. It's probably got a lake in it or something. But the dogs are all there, and the Chee, maybe a couple dozen or so, are just sort of hanging round. Does this thing really exist in the form that they want it to exist? There are a couple of quotes that throw that into question, like these. A little stream trickled by, just a metre or so away. A wall of silence had come down, as if someone had turned down the sound of all the barking dogs. I could still hear them, but it was as if the sound were far away now. Suddenly, everything around us dissolved. In its place, there grew a vast, three-dimensional picture. It looked as real as Erek. Somebody turned the dial down on the volume of the dog park. Can you just do that with dogs? Can you just turn down their volume? Just like grab on the nose and turn it? They do. Wish I could do that with Roxy. Our sausage dog has no soul.
She does too.
She doesn't.
Yes, she does.
She doesn't.
She doesn't like
She's
you.
got that stare of...
She's special.
Yes, she's special. In my heart. See, I said something nice about her. Pebble doesn't like it when I say mean things about Roxy. But how do you say a mean thing about something that has no soul?
Are you gonna be nice to our new kitty, or are you gonna be mean to him too?
Oh yeah, I'm getting a new cat. Yeah.
Tell them about the kitty.
I will do in the live stream. We'll get to that. But today we're talking about the Chee. Bastards. Did I tell you they were bastards? Because they're bastards. We're doing the Cheespiracy Theory soon, so just you wait and see. I've got all the receipts. I've got it all. You'll see. So not only do we magically turn the volume down on a park full of dogs, but as soon as Erek wants to, the whole thing just dissolves into a big new image that looks just as real as Erek, so basically lifelike. So my suspicion is that at least large portions of this dog park are just a hologram. And maybe they aren't actually in this vast cavern, but they're just like in a little box. And Mr. King is just sitting in there playing this hologram off a recorder, and Animorphs just walking like, oh, fucking hell, lads. But it's all bollocks. I wouldn't put it past the Chee, honestly. Honestly. How are the Chee relevant to the Animorphs series? According to the books, they've been spying on the Ereks since before the Animorphs even got involved. Specifically, Erek was at Eva, Marco's mother's, funeral. Why? He doesn't even go to the same school as Marco, and as Marco states, he's just an acquaintance. Let's look at the quotes. Erek had never been some major friend of mine. He was just this kid I'd say hi to in the hallways, except that he had been there for my mother's funeral. A funeral without a body. Some other kids from school had come, so I didn't think much about it. Erek had been 3 rows back, but he didn't look solemn. He looked angry, and he was shaking his head slowly, barely, from side to side, as if he was unconsciously disagreeing with everything the priest said. So yeah, he goes to Eva's funeral, but we know from several quotes, and I'll list a few now, we know from several quotes that Erek doesn't go to the school, but he used to. I could do surveillance of his school. He walks home from his school. They play soccer during gym. Man, we never get to play soccer. And then I looked up into the face of my former schoolmate, Erek. The Chee are supposedly great spies. Quoted a couple of times in the Animorphs series, they've been called the ultimate spies. Are they? No, they're not. And I don't know why the Animorphs put up with this pretense that somehow they are. But they do provide the Animorphs with information. They're very aware of what goes on in the sharing, and they actually take part in the sharing meetings, suspiciously enough. They also knew about the Andalite bandits before Book 10, when we officially meet Erek and the Chee. They also know that they're probably not necessarily Andalites. His name is Marco, Erek said calmly. You know the Andalite bandits Chapman is always talking about? The ones who use Andalite morphing technology to carry on a guerrilla war? I think this human is one of them. What makes them such useful spies? Well, they have something called Chee-net, which is mentioned a few times. And it's almost described like internet, except it's sort of hardwired into the system. You know, the thing that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do at the moment. Inter-Chee communication, Erek said. We had our own internet since the days when your ancestors were still drawing pictograms on pyramid walls. From what we know in Book 27, this all connects through a computer system aboard the Pemalite ship, which is 5,000 meters underwater. But that Pemalite ship is apparently infiltrated by the Drode, which we also meet in Book 27, and it cuts off certain parts of the Chee programming, allowing some bits to stay on, but also sends a signal up so that the Yerks can find the Pemalite ship, which is very, very bizarre, but apparently that's how it worked. And speaking of mysterious, high-powered creatures, we know for a fact that the Chee are in contact with the Elemist. The only other characters we know are in contact with the Elemist are the Animorphs. Was Elfangor in contact with the Elemist at any point? Pebble?
Yes?
Did Elfangor ever contact the Elemist?
Yeah.
Which part?
At the end of the Andalite Chronicles, the Elemist came to him and was like, "Oi, you need to go back."
Ah, you're right. Silly me. See, this is why I hire her to be my soon-to-be wife.
It was really sad because he had to leave his family.
Yeah,
His family.
I tried to wipe the Andalite Chronicles from my mind because I wasn't a great fan of it. But yeah, so yeah, apart from Elfangor and the Animorphs, nobody else knows about the Elemist except the Chee. And here are some examples of how I know that. And we know through our sources that you have been doing good work against our mutual acquaintances. The Elemist has brought me up to date. Who are these sources? They're mentioned a few times. Surely if they're spies, if the Chee are spies, then they are the source. Because otherwise there's another spy that they're getting their information from. Unless it's all this Chee-net weirdness going on. But as far as I know, the Chee-net just makes them this hive mind. They're all sort of interconnected and they all have the same thought, the same information feeding into their brains. And since they're androids and they're programmed, you'd think that they are to some degree a hive mind. What else is a hive mind? The Howlers. They are a hive mind. They share information. That's how they were defeated in Book 26, The Attack, when Jake put certain memories into the Howler's head and it spread. That's why the Cryak just instantly got rid of them, because he didn't want it spreading. It's very similar to how the Chee work. And another thing about the Howlers and the Drode and stuff like that, they specify on occasions that they're not allowed to hurt certain people. Remember when the Howlers were on the Iskort planet, they were told that they couldn't harm any Iskort or any creature other than the 7 warriors that the Elemist chose. The Drode mentions in Book 27 that he can't harm anything. What else do we know can't harm anything? The Chee! And they're in contact with the Elemist. There's a weird triangle going on here. As triangular as the interlocking plates on their bony little legs. There's a weird triangle going there, and that's for another theory some other day. One thing that the Drode said that he could harm, whereas he can't harm the Animorphs, one thing that he said he could harm, and this is interesting, he said that he could harm the Chee. I thought you couldn't kill self-aware creatures, Cassie said desperately. The Drode laughed. They're machines, you silly girl. Androids. The Drode is straight up saying that the Chee are not self-aware creatures, they are machines. They can't make decisions, they can't do that. Are the Chee self-aware? Well, this supposedly high-powered, almost godlike, or like the minion of some godlike thing is saying, no, they aren't actually self-aware beings, they are just machines. But can machines be contradictory? There are a few contradictory things about the Chee throughout the Animorphs series. For example, remember when I told you about that massive hologram that Erek created, the big Hork-Bajir Valley? One big thing, waterfalls, Hork-Bajir, fucking piles of shit everywhere, sand and water and whatever. Yeah, so he can do that. But in Book 45 of the Revelation, when they're faking Marco and his father's death, they couldn't make an external hologram like they did there. Mr. King got almost blown to smithereens because he had to play the part of the exact Peter, Marco's father, and he got blasted, which is strange why he would do that when he clearly has the power to do it without getting himself nearly killed. Also, what constitutes harm? The Chee are not allowed to harm anything, but what is harm? It's pain, isn't it? So, let's have a look at one of the big contradictions here. When our creators made us, they hardwired us for non-violence. We are not capable of hurting another living being. The pain was indescribable. Both halves of me twitched and jerked and seized. Every nerve ending exploded with energy. I couldn't hear, couldn't think. My eyes were blinded by a sizzling halo of light. I was being electrocuted. Apparently, Erek can cause pain, and he didn't need the Pemalite crystal to do it. Is this because he's a deceptive little git? A pillicking, willicking, willy-pullying dipstick? Or is it just a contradiction? Are they just not allowed to kill? Can they harm? They can certainly torture. The front of his head split open. Inside his steel and ivory head was a chamber, just a few centimetres in diameter. And inside that chamber was a grey slug, helpless, unable to escape. Tiny wires, no thicker than hairs, wrapped around it. The Chee, or at least a number of them, Erek included, keep Yerks locked away in their heads, unable to see, unable to hear, still alive, but just trapped, essentially forever. They keep it fed with this little inbuilt Kandrona thing in their heads. That seems like a form of torture to me. Does that constitute violence? In this day and age, saying a naughty word is violence, apparently. So surely this is a form of violence if we're taking modern day standards into consideration. Or is violence an objective thing? Who the bloody hell knows, eh? But yeah, they can cause harm, they can do torture, but apparently they just can't kill. It's just not in their programming. Which makes you wonder why the Chee weren't more helpful. If they could cause harm but not kill, and they can lock somebody away forever, not cause them physical harm, but just keep them aside forever, just stuck in place, can't see, can't hear. If they can do that, and they can take the Animorphs into the Erek pool like Erek did in Vista, just walked them right on in there, then surely the war would have been over much, much sooner. But Erek and the other Chee always seem to be sort of in the way, or not really helping that much. The amount of times they sent the Animorphs straight into the palm of Vista 3's crummy little Andalite fiddly hands. Or the amount of times they could help, but they just don't. It's a little bizarre. And we will cover those things in the upcoming Ani Theory, the Cheespiracy. We're going to have an in-depth look on the pros and cons to the argument of, are the Chee double-crossing divvies? I think that's a very important argument to have. In the end, the Chee survived the war. We don't have any Chee deaths. We only know of a few Chee characters. So we've got Erek, Mr. King, Lords, whatever. And we've definitely got one called Maria. I think we might have one or two more here or there. No, there was one that went with Erek to the sharing skiing event or barbecue event in the Android. I forget her name. Completely irrelevant. Might have been Jessica. No, it wasn't Jessica. Whatever. We do know one thing. Maria, the old woman Chee who appears in the dog park in the Android. Apparently, Maria is just the given name to the hologram. The Chee have their own real names. And we only know Maria's real name, Chee-Lonos. We never learn Erek's real Chee name. We can assume by the construction of the name that they all start with the word Chee hyphen something else. It could be different, but for Maria specifically, it's Chee-Lonos. Lonos. which is a pretty cool name, but it's the only time we get a real Chee name. That's just interesting to me. So all throughout the series, the Chee are handing the Animorphs little bits of information. A lot of times it's false, a lot of the times it's not very useful, sometimes it is useful, and a lot of times the Chee act as cover for the Animorphs when, say, they have to go to the North Pole, or the Amazon rainforest, or Australia, or anything like that. The Chee provide cover. And they do other little things here or there as well. They help out as much as they can. And at one point, Erek goes with them to the Escort planet because he has a knowledge of the Howlers, the group that they're trying to defeat. By the end of the series, Jake is able to manipulate Erek's programming to help him by saying, if you don't help us, we will kill somebody, which means that Erek takes the path of least violent resistance, and helps them to get onto the pool ship at the end and take over it. But in the end, he gets his own back on Jake by draining the pool ship's weaponry so that they can't get rid of the escaping blade ship with Tom on it. To which Jake and the other Animorphs are a bit peeved. And they don't end on the nicest of terms with each other. And Erek just disappears into the sunset. We don't hear from him again. But we know that the Chee are still around after the Yerk War. Whether they're still in secret or not, they probably are. I doubt that Jake would out them in one of his autobiographies. Marco might. Cassie probably wouldn't. But we can probably rest assured that the Chee are back in their underground shit heap, filled with dog excrement, and that they're, well, fuck them. Do you agree?
Yep.
Yes. Sod the Chee. And we'll get into why hopefully next week. There's a lot of research to do for this Cheespiracy video. But anyway, this has been the analysis of the Chee. Of course, it doesn't go into too much detail because I will eventually do analysis videos of Erek, Mr. King, Lowards, Maria, and the Pemalite crystal, all those other things. This is a big overview picture of the Chee, where they came from, what they do, and how they play as a race into the Animorphs universe. If there's anything I've missed, please do write in the comments, and I will reply with my opinions. I suppose that's what I do. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you soon for that Cheespiracy video. It's been a long time coming, but it's almost upon us. It's almost upon us. So thank you very much for watching. I shall see you next time. Ta-ra!